Ramil, also known as Fengshen, continues to drift off towards the west here, away from the Philippines after impacting them over the past weekend. Just towards the south of Hong Kong at this time. I know Signal Force 3 has been raised in Hong Kong, and it's going to continue to drift actually out towards the south and west, probably bringing some messy weather to parts of Hainan and eventually into southern Vietnam. One of the bigger topics with this is also going to be kind of behind it. It's setting up the Shear front, aka the autumn rainy season front for southwestern Japan over towards Taiwan, and that really is the leading edge of the northeast monsoon. By the way, I'm meteorologist Robert Spett, as always, doing my best to give you the latest update out here in the tropics and what's happening. No hype, never my goal, but I try to break things down, and I'm going to break down, some of the forecasting with Ramil and challenges with it in just a moment. But first, I still want to get to the current forecast because, it is still out here just towards the south of Hong Kong, as I mentioned. Plenty of convection around that low-level center, but it's not terribly organized. I think it's definitely back to tropical storm status, as we see here with the Joint Typhoon Warning Center as well as JMA. A big wind field on the northern periphery, and that's not so much tropical related, but it has a lot to do with the interaction, as I mentioned, with the northeast monsoon trying to come down and just creating a tight pressure gradient all the way back towards Hong Kong, and eventually it's going to move over towards Hainan. And you just see with both of these outlooks from JMA and JTWC, they do have this kind of slowly drifting towards the south and west while weakening as it approaches around central Vietnam, right there into the Da Nang area. So yeah, definitely some messy weather in the forecast for those locations as it drifts off there. Like I said, in the broader picture of things, you have to talk about the interaction between that northeast monsoon. You can see it here trying to come down, and then you still have the easterlies. So it smacks into each other. It sets up this front right like that. Now, during the winter months, when we actually have the Amihan full on in the Philippines, this is known as that shear line we've been talking about for the last 10 years. It starts to get a lot used more now by Pagasa. The shear line is definitely the big rainmaker in the next few months for the Philippines, but right now it's not quite there. It is what Japan calls the Shear front, which, as I mentioned, is going to bring several days of some sloppy weather across southwestern Japan, and it'll slowly track further towards the south throughout the duration of autumn, pretty much heading into the winter months in the northern hemisphere. And very obvious where exactly it is at this point. I mean, you could see just south of Honshu all the way out across Okinawa, the Miyako, Jima, and just south of Hong Kong all the way out here towards Vietnam. So yeah, at least nothing popping up in the extended forecast further towards the east. In fact, we can take a look at our AI model, the Google DeepMind, and give you an idea of what I'm looking at here. And yeah, here we go. So there's our current storm system. You can see as this drifts off towards the west, kind of slowly weakens out as it nears Vietnam here. But let's pull back the picture. And, also picking up on another low spinning off of that front. I don't think that would be terribly tropical, but just kind of shows where the lows are. And then we can see off towards the east, nothing. The DeepMind really isn't showing much of anything, which is very telling in that extended forecast. Even the long-range ensembles don't really show much. So I think we're going to have some periods after what feels like a record-breaking time and time again of tropical systems for the Philippines. We're actually going to get maybe an extended break in our forecast here. By the way, it's rant time. I should make a graphic that says rant time. So yeah, this JMA was bad with this last Storm Ramile. And a lot of people are, they're saying, the models and the forecast change. But this one was difficult. I think Pagasa did better than JMA, which a behind the scenes look has like a fraction of the funding as JMA. So shout out to the meteorologists. Some people have said I've been praising them a lot lately. I'm telling you, it's the equivalent of somebody like in their garage doing a rock band versus somebody who has like a state-of-the-art recording studio as far as the funding. So shout out to the Pagasa. And even here, people are giving them crap because you can see how the forecast shifts towards the south a little bit. But JMA was much more dramatic here with Ramil. And also goes back to show, look at the broader impacts from the start with Ramil, also known as Fengshen. I was saying it's probably going to drift towards the south, but don't focus on the center line because a lot of the convection is going to be south and west due to a little bit of shear. Also, the models have been notorious recently on not indicating the proper turning of a storm. And what I mean by that is time and time again, and I'm going to try to go through and do a little research on this and give more numerical data versus just opinionated data like mine right now, but I'm showing you here one example. But time and time again, models show a turn towards the north in the Philippine Sea, and over again, we have to realize the biasness of meteorologists, forecasters, the general public, but it really is on us as forecasters to understand this biasness. And that's the whole reason why meteorologists are still employed today. Everybody can get their weather on their phone. Everybody can get their forecasts on the computer. It runs off of numerical data and it has no meteorological input into it. But to prove our worth as meteorologists and forecasters, we have to look at the data like this and understand the biasnesses of some of the models, where they could be wrong. And for example, day-to-day thunderstorms, we understand that uplift from mountains can cause storms to flare up in small locations where models have a hard time picking up on it. That's why you have a forecaster, somebody that can look through and peer through where models go wrong, what kind of data you have to look for, and what the forecast is going to look like. So it's just one of those examples where, yeah, you have to understand it, and hopefully it gets fixed. But this has happened twice this year with Opong and now with Ramil, and in the past, it has happened on numerous occasions. Yeah. So, with that said, what do you think? What do you think? Give me some examples, because I'm going to do some research on this. And if you're watching and you're meteorologically smart, that makes no sense. But if you know what I'm talking about here, and you know of some examples, put it out in the comments section. I'm going to try to compile some of this, put it together, and a little research, like a research-esque paper, more for the YouTube channel here, but it's knowledge for everybody. And that's my goal with these videos, is not just the forecast knowledge part of it, but the hindcast part of it. What went wrong, why things happened, and what we can do better in the future to make sure everybody stays safe and is prepared. And that's the whole point. That's why in the end of every video, I always say, stay safe out there, friends. Have a good day.